You've arrived at CozySideAudio, where dreams begin with a story. Whether you're studying, journaling, or just chilling, this one's for you. If you vibe with this kind of content, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe for more.
CozySideAudio presents Hearts in Formation, Chapter 1. Warm-up block. The first day of band camp always smells the same: grass clippings, sunscreen, and fear. Lisa Kim stood at the 50-yard line with her whistle between her teeth, staring down a field full of half-awake teenagers in mismatched athletic clothes. The sun was already high enough to turn the turf into something close to a griddle, and the metronome's sharp beep, beep, beep cut through the murmuring voices of the Ridgeview High marching band. "Blocks at attention," she called, voice cracking just slightly on the last word. 67 bodies froze, or mostly froze. A few shoulders twitched, a few feet still shifted nervously. Lisa's eyes darted down the lines. She could spot every tiny inconsistency like a hawk. One trumpet bell tilted, one clarinet too far forward, one sax still chewing gum. She exhaled, sharp through her nose. "Good morning, Ridgeview," shouted Mr. Harper, their director, stepping out from the sideline with a clipboard in one hand and a megaphone in the other. His straw hat was already fraying at the edges. "Who's ready to make this year the best one yet?" A half-hearted chorus of yas rolled across the field. He said. "Not with that energy, you're not. Try again." This time, the shout was stronger, pushed by the faint competitiveness of not wanting to be the quietest section. The drumline naturally yelled loudest. Lisa hid a smile. That was fine. Let the drums start the energy. She lowered her whistle, scanning the form again. She wasn't sure what she'd expected from her first morning as official drum major, but it wasn't this hollow ache in her chest, a feeling like she was performing confidence more than feeling it. She missed being in the band, tucked behind her clarinet, sharing looks and laughter with the woodwinds. Now she was the person everyone watched. She blew the whistle once. Parade rest. The collective exhale that followed was a wave of relief. "All right," Mr. Harper said, pacing in front of them. "This season's show is called Hearts in Formation." He grinned, waiting for the groan that always followed when a show title was too sentimental. It's about connection, about what happens when people move together, how small motions can create something huge. It's the perfect show for Ridgeview's comeback year. Beside the podium, the percussion cart rattled as Adam Morales adjusted his snare harness. His hands, taped along the knuckles, moved with the unconscious rhythm of someone who lived in 16th notes. He leaned toward Dante, the new kid from Jefferson High, who was tightening a tenor harness. "Comeback year," Adam muttered. "He says that every year." Dante chuckled under his breath, careful not to get caught talking. He'd been in bands long enough to know that directors could spot conversation like radar. Still, he couldn't help it. The field felt unfamiliar, the people too close-knit, like everyone else had a shorthand he didn't understand. "Yeah," he whispered back, "but maybe he's right this time." Adam gave him a look, half skeptical, half amused, and started tapping a silent rhythm on his sticks, mouthing check, check, check as the snare line always did when waiting to play. Across the field, Autumn Reyes adjusted her clarinet ligature for the 6th time. The reed still sounded too airy when she tested it, but she refused to switch to her backup. It was probably fine. It had to be fine. She'd spent all summer practicing for first chair auditions, and she wasn't going to start day one with a squeak. "Ready, woodwinds?" Lisa called. Autumn straightened automatically. "Yes, ma'am," she said, louder than she meant to. Lisa blinked, startled by the volume, then gave a quick nod. "Let's start with Concert F, full ensemble. Breathe together. 1, 2. The first sound of the season rose from the field, tentative, uneven, but undeniably alive. The brass came in a touch too strong, the flute struggled to find pitch, and someone in the low reeds was definitely playing the wrong note. But as the measure stretched, the tone thickened. People adjusted, listened, blended. Lisa's heartbeat steadied with the music. For a moment, she forgot the clipboard in her hand, the anxiety humming in her chest. She was just inside the sound again. By mid-morning, the band had run through stretches, horns down basics, and a round of drill learning. The sun hammered mercilessly, and water breaks were less a courtesy and more an act of survival. Autumn sat cross-legged in the shade of the bleachers, gently turning her reed case over in her hands. Her best friend, Riley from the flute section, flopped beside her. "You think the new show's gonna be good?" Riley asked, half dazed from heat. Autumn shrugged. "Depends how fast we learn drill this year. We always get behind in September." "Yeah, but Lisa's drum major now," Riley said, like that explained everything. Autumn looked up toward the 50, where Lisa was talking with Mr. Harper. She did seem more in control than anyone else on the field. Calm, upright, impossible to rattle. Autumn envied that. She wondered if people ever noticed how hard Lisa's hands shook when she thought no one was watching. "Maybe she'll whip us into shape," Riley said, sipping from her water bottle. "Maybe," Autumn said quietly, then smiled. "At least the theme's cute. Hearts in formation. Sounds like a romance novel." Riley laughed. "You wish." Autumn laughed too, a small, real sound that cut through the fatigue. At lunch, the drumline practiced cadences behind the band hall. The sound bounced off the brick walls and carried across the parking lot, filling the air with rhythm like thunder rolling in patterns. Adam led the count-off, drumsticks flashing. The snares were tight and unified. The tenors spun through their parts with clean sweeps. Even Dante, still learning Ridgeview's warm-up sequence, caught on quickly. His touch was smoother than Adam expected, a kind of graceful control that came from years of training. "Yo," Adam said when they paused. "You really from Jefferson?" Dante nodded, wiping sweat from his neck. "Yeah, my mom got a new job in Ridgeview. Guess I'm here now." Adam grinned. "Man, Jefferson's drumline was sick last year. You guys had that crazy feature at regionals?" Dante's face flickered between pride and embarrassment. "Thanks. I'm still learning your stuff, though. Your cadences are faster." "That's just 'cause we get overhyped." Adam started drumming on the ground with his sticks. "It's good to have another tenor. You'll fit in." The sincerity surprised Dante. He'd been bracing for weeks for the awkwardness of being the new guy, but the percussion section had a strange, welcoming chaos to it. As long as you could keep time, you were family. Mr. Harper appeared then, clapping once. "All right, percussion, save your hands. We're running drill sets in 15. Let's make these hearts march in time." The afternoon was all drill. The white lines of the field blurred in the heat and dot sheets flapped in every direction. Lisa climbed onto the podium, whistle ready. "Set 1, woodwinds on the front hash, brass behind. Percussion on side 1. Guards start off field. Count off on my whistle." She gave a sharp blast. And just like that, 67 bodies moved as one. Feet hit the turf in perfect time. Horns lifted. The guards spun silver silks that flashed in the sun. Lisa watched it unfold from above, the shapes forming, twisting, converging. It wasn't perfect yet, it wasn't even close. But there was something in it that made her chest ache in the best way. The show was called Hearts in Formation, and she could see why. When they marched right, it was like everyone's pulse synced for a moment. She raised her hands. "Hold there," she called. "Forms drifting on side 2. Low brass, check your intervals." From the sideline, Mr. Harper shouted, "Good eyes, Lisa." She felt a flush of pride and relief. Maybe she could do this after all. The run continued, slow and deliberate. The sets began to flow together, transitions smoothing out, lines sharpening. And by the time they reached the final impact form, a heart that filled the 50-yard line, there was a hush on the field. Even unfinished, it looked right. "Not bad for day 1, Mr. Harper said finally. "We've got work to do, but we're starting strong." Someone clapped, then someone else. Soon, applause rippled across the field. Lisa climbed down from the podium, exhausted but smiling. Adam met her halfway. "Hey, boss," he said, spinning his sticks. "If that's day 1, we might actually stand a chance this year." Lisa laughed, the tension in her chest loosening. "We'll see. You just keep your tenors in line." "Deal." Behind them, the sun began to dip. The guard packed up their silks. The brass carried their instruments toward the buses. Autumn lingered a little longer on the field, running her fingers across the faint chalk lines of the heart formation. She tried to imagine what it would look like under stadium lights. Full stands, drums pounding, crowd roaring as they hit the last chord. The thought sent a thrill through her stomach. Maybe this really was their year, not because of trophies or scores, but because of how it felt, standing there in formation, knowing she was part of something bigger. That night, Lisa sat at her desk, field notebook open, still in her Ridgeview Band t-shirt. She was supposed to be logging attendance and writing reminders for tomorrow's rehearsal, but instead, she was just staring at the words Hearts in Formation written in block letters at the top of the page. It wasn't just a show title anymore. It was the sound of the field underfoot, the breath before the downbeat, the silent promise that maybe, if they worked hard enough, they could turn all this noise into something beautiful. She tapped her pencil, counting quietly under her breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. That weekend, the parking lot outside Ridgeview High filled with the smell of brass polish and Gatorade. Parents arrived to watch the first preview run. Lisa climbed the podium. The metronome clicked. Ridgeview High Marching Band, your judges are ready. She gave one sharp whistle, and the field came alive. The music wasn't perfect. Tempo wobbled, intervals shifted, but the emotion was real. The trumpets soared, the low brass anchored, and the woodwinds danced between them. The percussion pulsed like a heartbeat. In that moment, under the bright blue of the early season sky, they weren't just a high school band. They were 67 hearts beating in formation. When the final note hung in the air, no one moved. Then the parents clapped and someone cheered, and laughter broke the silence. Lisa's throat tightened. She blew her whistle once more, steady and clear, and called out the words that would become their mantra for the season. Ridgeview, reset. And together they took their first collective breath toward greatness. Chapter 2. Set by set, the season didn't unfold in moments of glory. It unfolded in repetitions. Every morning before school, Lisa arrived at the band room by 7:30, the first to flick on the lights. The air always smelled faintly of brass polish and coffee. She'd run her fingers along the podium railing as she walked the empty field, checking for uneven chalk lines. By 8, Adam and the drumline were usually already there, tapping out warm-ups on drum pads balanced across music stands. The rhythm of August turned into something steady and sacred. Metronome, whistle, count-off, move, reset over and over. Mr. Harper called it building muscle memory. The students called it Groundhog Day with the sunburns. Still, the field began to shift beneath their feet. Lines tighter, diagonals cleaner. The chaos of camp was gone, replaced by something more intentional. Lisa could feel it in her bones every time she lifted her arms. That moment right before sound, when 67 people waited on her cue. It was terrifying. It was wonderful. Autumn learned that the trick to surviving afternoon rehearsals was twofold. Hydrate constantly and don't compare your sound to the seniors. The clarinet section was a quiet battlefield. Everyone pretended to be friendly, but auditions were coming, and that meant every long tone was secretly a test. During water breaks, Autumn sat on the bleachers, pulling apart her instrument and cleaning out the condensation. Her fingers moved automatically, but her mind replayed snippets of rehearsal. Lisa's whistle, Mr. Harper's voice calling, "Clarinets, watch your pitch," the brass laughing at some inside joke the woodwinds didn't catch. She didn't mind the solitude. In fact, she liked it. The quiet between movements, the soft sound of reeds drying in the sun. Dante walked by one afternoon, holding a pair of mallets. "You always practicing something," he said, grinning. Autumn looked up, startled. "It's habit?" "Good habit." He gestured to the field where the drum line was setting up for sectionals. "You play really in tune. Heard it when we ran the ballad yesterday." She blinked. "You did?" He nodded. "Hard not to. The clarinets carry the melody in that part. It's good stuff." She felt her face warm slightly. Compliments about tone were like secret currencies in band. Rare, meaningful, hard-earned. "Thanks," she said softly. Dante shrugged, heading off. "See you at full run." Autumn watched him go, the corners of her mouth turning upward. It was the kind of small moment that made long rehearsals feel worth it. By early September, Ridgeview's first competition was on the calendar. The Hollow Creek Invitational wasn't state level by any means, but it was where they'd measure themselves against nearby schools and against Jefferson High, Dante's old band. "First show's where we set the tone," Mr. Harper told them at the Monday meeting. It's not about trophies, it's about progress. Let's see how our hearts line up. Lisa wrote the schedule on the whiteboard. Call time, 6:30 a.m. Warm-up block, 9:15. Performance, 10 o'clock. Retreat, noon. The room buzzed with nervous excitement. Adam drummed on the back of a chair. All right, Ridgeview, let's not embarrass ourselves in front of Dante's old crew. Dante laughed. You'll be fine. Jefferson's good, but they're not magic. You sure? Autumn asked teasingly. He grinned. Positive, I've seen your heart set. Jefferson doesn't have that. Saturday morning arrived clear and cold, the kind of dawn that smelled like dew and diesel fuel. The buses rumbled in the parking lot as sleepy students loaded garment bags and shako boxes. The sound of drums warming up echoed off the asphalt. Lisa checked off names on her clipboard, voice still groggy from lack of sleep. Clarinet line's good, percussion's here, guard, where's guard? Getting donuts? Someone called. Lisa rolled her eyes but smiled. Of course. Mr. Harper stood at the front of the bus, megaphone tucked under his arm. All right, Ridgeview, remember, every show begins before we step on that field. How we carry ourselves, how we load, how we warm up, it all counts. Let's make today count. The band cheered, still half asleep but sincere. On the ride, the air hummed with quiet nerves. The buses smelled of hairspray, brass polish, and breakfast sandwiches. Adam sat in the back, earbuds in, drumming quietly on his knees. He'd learned to find calm and rhythm. It was easier than thinking about home, about his mom's double shifts, or about how the house always felt too quiet lately. Here, surrounded by friends and percussionists who understood him without words, he felt steady. Lisa sat near the front, practicing silent conducting with her fingers. Every once in a while, she'd whisper the count pattern under her breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It wasn't superstition, it was ritual. Autumn leaned against the window, reed case open in her lap, testing reeds with delicate precision, even though the bus bumps made it impossible to do properly. Dante was in the middle row, sketching drill forms in a notebook. Arrows, arcs, heart shapes. He was still memorizing every transition. He liked knowing the geometry of it all, the invisible math behind emotion. The closer they got to Hollow Creek, the quieter everyone became. The field was damp when they arrived, mist still clinging to the trees. Other bands were already warming up in distant corners of the stadium grounds, brass echoing across parking lots, snares cracking in perfect unison. The air vibrated with 100 different metronomes. Lisa gathered them all at the buses. Listen up, we've got 30 minutes before visual warm-up. Remember your step sizes, remember your forms. Most of all, listen, don't fight the tempo, flow with it. Her voice carried confidence that surprised even her. Maybe it was the uniform. Maybe it was the fact that, for the first time, she could see the whole show in her head from start to finish. They began their warm-up block. Dante tapped out the pulse. The brass started their tuning sequence. Autumn's clarinet tone wove between the trumpets. Adam's sticks blurred with focus, each tap sharp and clean. Mr. Harper watched from the sidelines, arms crossed, a faint smile forming beneath his mustache. When the whistle blew for transition to the field, the Ridgeview band moved like clockwork. They lined up, silent, instruments ready. Lisa climbed the podium. The crowd was small, mostly parents, a few judges scribbling notes, but to her, it might as well have been a stadium. The announcer's voice echoed through the speakers. Now, entering the field for competition, the Ridgeview High School Marching Band. Their 2025 field show, Hearts in Formation. Lisa inhaled, raised her hands, and gave the downbeat. The opening hit was soft at first, cautious. Then, as the drumline locked in, everything shifted. The trumpets soared through the opener's melody, bright and clean. The woodwinds answered, fluid and precise. The guards' red and silver silks painted arcs across the morning air. Lisa's arms traced the tempo with clarity, but her heart was pounding too fast. She wasn't thinking about perfection, she was thinking about connection. Halfway through, during the ballad, something clicked. The notes aligned. The sound swelled like breath expanding in a single chest. Autumn closed her eyes on a long clarinet sustain and felt it vibrate in her teeth. Adam struck a rim shot exactly on beat 3, the sound echoing perfectly across the field. Dante's tenors rolled under it like thunder. By the time they reached the heart formation, the crowd was cheering. Lisa lowered her arm slowly on the last note, letting the silence hang. Then she blew her whistle for horns down. It was over. The applause was polite, but to them it felt enormous. Back at the buses, everyone was flushed with adrenaline. Mr. Harper paced between them, clipboard in hand. That, he said, was Ridgeview music. Clean, expressive, heartfelt. We've got things to fix, but you told your story out there. Adam collapsed onto a cooler. My shoulders are dead. Worth it, Dante said, offering a fist bump. Totally worth it, Adam agreed, bumping back. Autumn was still clutching her clarinet. We actually did it, she said. We sounded good. You were good, Lisa said, appearing beside her, sweat still dripping down her forehead. That was the cleanest run we've had. Autumn smiled shyly. Thanks, drum major. Lisa hesitated, then grinned. Call me Lisa off the field, please. When awards were announced, Ridgeview placed third. It wasn't first, but it was the highest they'd finished in years. Mr. Harper shook his head in proud disbelief. I told you, he said. Come back year. The bus ride home was loud this time. Laughter, music from someone's Bluetooth speaker, and the occasional yell of, "Third place, baby," echoed down the aisle. Lisa sat by the window, watching the highway lights blur. She felt weightless, tired, sunburned, and weightless. This was what she'd hoped for when she took the job. Not trophies, not titles, but this, the sense of movement, the pulse of a shared rhythm that followed them off the field. When the bus turned onto Ridgeview Drive, she saw the water tower with the faded school logo. Someone in the back started chanting, Ridgeview, Ridgeview, and the sound caught on until everyone joined in. Lisa laughed until her voice cracked. The next morning, rehearsal resumed like nothing had happened. That was the paradox of marching band. You could have your best show ever, and the next day you still had to fix your diagonals. Set 1, Lisa called. The band moved, feet hit the turf, the heart formation began to take shape again. Mr. Harper called from the sideline. All right, let's clean those transitions. Third place isn't bad, but we can beat that next time. Adam raised his sticks. You heard the man? The metronome clicked. Lisa's arms rose. And as the music began again, clearer now, stronger, Ridgeview's season started to feel like a heartbeat that wouldn't stop. They were still learning, still adjusting, still moving forward. Set by set, show by show, they were turning repetition into resonance. And every time they stepped onto that field, they came a little closer to becoming something bigger than themselves. Chapter 3, Rain Delay. The week the sky decided to test them, Ridgeview practiced resilience. It began with a forecast posted on the bandroom bulletin board. Clusters of gray icons marching across the weekend like an ominous drum cadence. Rain, heavy at times, wind warnings. Plan for indoor contingency, the school email read in clipped administrative English. For most people, that was background noise, the kind of civic weather prose you skimmed while making coffee. But to a marching band, it was a sentence of consequences. You know what that means, Adam said the Monday morning before practice, palms already wrapped with athletic tape. His voice had the casual edge of someone who used humor to check the panic he didn't want anyone else to smell. The drumline congregated in their usual corner of the room, a cluster of practice shorthand and spit tabs. Lisa had already seen 3 versions of the rehearsal schedule on Mr. Harper's whiteboard. Indoor Plan A, B, C, each in different colored dry erase. She liked having things written, boxed, and lined. It quieted the part of her that calculated contingencies in the middle of the night. They started that afternoon in the gymnasium because the first downpours hit by noon. The gym's acoustics were treacherous, too much slap, too much echo. But the place had height and space, and it kept the instruments dry. The uniform smell of varnish and damp socks gave the air a particular thickness. Guard members laid out their silks on the bleachers, sliding them like sails. Okay, Block 1, we're on a different cadence today, Lisa announced, adjusting the mic on her podium so her voice didn't have to be sharp to cut through the gym's acoustics. She felt oddly small without the open field beneath her feet, but she kept her shoulders square. Drill will be done in 8 counts, but we're doing block to block instead of traveling lines. Visuals have to translate into the gym. Tight feet, percussion, mind your dynamics so the brass can breathe. She felt the habitual nervous electricity in her palms, the same one that sharpened her breath before every downbeat. In the gym, it was more focused. If the field taught wide-angle form, the gym taught microscopic precision. The squad reformed across painted lines on the floor, 10-yard lines swapped for painted basketball court boundaries, and everyone recalibrated themselves in numbers and inches. It's like contorting the show into a closet, Dante muttered to Autumn as they took position. He'd learned to trade the sardonic comment for the soft energy it delivered. Observant, not cynical. For a transfer from Jefferson, where the percussion had a reputation for theatrics and the drill was always an aggressive geometry, Ridgeview's adjustments felt both familiar and strange. He liked the band here. He liked how people softened around the edges when planning got hard. Autumn tucked her case beneath her chair and set her chin strap with a practiced hand. "It forces you to listen," she said. "When you can't rely on the field, you have to make the music speak for itself." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Inside, she kept cataloging tiny corrections. First chair was not a destination so much as a series of small proofs, and every rehearsal was a new test. They worked through measures and step sizes inside the gym the way a seamstress might work a stubborn hemline. Pin, press, cut, repeat. The math of marching never changed. 8 to 5, 12 to 5 for different counts, harnessing momentary motion into lasting shape. But indoors, the sound sat on top of them, blunt and uncompromising. Brass chirped and reverb swallowed nuance. It taught them to compress dynamics carefully, to find the same respiration in smaller places. By Tuesday, the rain was a drum that never ceased. Outside the band room, the district grounds turned to a gray smear. Inside the room, teachers and students adapted, piling on layers of plans. Mr. Harper, who wore his concern in a quiet, furrowed way, called for sectional focus that week. Brass for intonation drills, woodwinds for tone production, percussion for rudimental mechanics. "We can't control the weather," he said, elbows on his clipboard as if the wood could steady him. "But we can control our preparation. Consider this a strengthening period." He had the trained optimism of someone who'd watched seasons like Low Tide. Some years came back cleaner than others. Adam's rehearsals carried an extra kind of gravity. At home, the house hummed with his mother's overtime hours and with rent reminders stuck to the fridge. He used practices like a ritual to rent space from that worry. In the gym, he drummed with an economy that came from having fewer resources to waste. Stamina measured in measures and not in minutes. When the snares were clean, he felt something of the day's pressure dissolve for a while. On Wednesday, the rain returned with a cleverer ferocity. Lightning laced the clouds, and the district called all outdoor activity off. That night, the band had to rehearse on the indoor track in the sports complex, the synthetic lanes catching echoes like a mouth. It was almost comically small, but it forced them into a discipline that would later show, unmistakably, on the open green. "Because of the track lanes," Lisa said as they lined up, "we're going to maintain set placements but shorten our step sizes to match the facility. Keep your hips under you, stay tall." She showed the count pattern again, crisp, visible. She was doing more with her hands than before. The gym had taught her to make every movement a signal. Dante, who was learning the Ridgeview way of breath and phrase, watched Lisa with a study that mixed admiration and the edge of his own rivalry-trained skepticism. He'd been the visual leader at Jefferson for a time, and leadership styles varied like time signatures. Here, Lisa's cadence was softer, more anchored in listening than spectacle. He liked the subtlety of it. In the smaller spaces, they learned to be less theatrical and more essential. Their melodies breathed differently. Their step placement got quieter but certain. Those were the rehearsals you couldn't film to make it look good on Instagram. They were the kind that kept the band honest. On Thursday, the storm moved on, leaving the field a churned, soggy animal. The football coach sent a friendly, exhausted text praising their luck and lending his tarp. The tarp, an improvised sea giant green, became their portable stage. Mr. Harper organized a tarp crew like a naval captain, organizing a life raft. People with strong backs, people with quick feet, people with calm voices. "We're not canceling," he said simply as the students carried the tarp across the mud. "We're adapting." Mud squished under shoes. Shoes came back scarred with stories. The guard practiced their rifle tosses with rubberized batons because the real ones had soaked into heavy, unsafe weights. Still, when the tarp was in place at the 50 and the bleachers filled with parents who'd braved drizzle just to watch, something in the weather lifted. That Friday night, the Ridgeview Band performed their first regional under those narrow, rain-splattered lights at the stadium in neighboring Willow Creek, a place with a reputation for being meticulous about timelines and even more meticulous about scores. The schedule had been pushed back twice. An early thunderstorm had delayed sound checks and drumline movement. But the evening held a clarity that made every practice, every small indoor grind, feel like a thread leading somewhere. Call time was late. The air smelled of damp uniforms and roasted peanuts. Students loaded onto buses with steady hands, instruments wrapped in plastic, and their breath visible in the cooling night. The ride was quiet with pre-performance focus, phones off, mental checklists run silently. Adam sat near the window, watching his reflection float in the dark glass like a double exposure. He tapped his sticks idly, counting measures in the rhythm of the bus motion, the gentle bump a metronome between towns. He thought about the drumline's part in the opener, about where his stick would meet the drumhead, how many decibels to push at the cadence. He thought about home, about dinner lateness, and about money, and felt the old, dull worry slip into a smaller pocket next to adrenaline. Lisa climbed onto the small podium they used for shows that didn't rent the big risers. The spotlight made her small but clear. She had double-checked uniform prep and pinned down stray hairs, but what steadied her more than any physical prep was the confidence that came from a long week of compromises, of learning to translate the show into any space. She had practiced conducting the song 3 ways: for a gym, for a field, for a tarp. That kind of rehearsal did not let panic in. Autumn tuned quietly under the lights while the drumline warmed. She had been obsessing over her upper register in the ballad. Her mouthpiece had a familiar bite to it now, and the reed she'd selected earlier had already accepted heat and moisture in perfect measure. The lights made everything sharper. You could examine a tone and see its small imperfections. Her hands were steady enough. She told herself this as a mantra. First chair, or not, her job tonight was to tell the story with clarity. Dante walked the drill in the hushed area off-field, counting angles with his feet. He thought about how uniformity could be an act of kindness. If you moved strong and predictable, the person beside you would have something to trust. He had come from a band that loved spectacle, but here he found value in quiet reliability. It made the moments where you did stand out, when the tenors broke into a feature or the guard unfolded a particularly risky toss, bloom with greater effect. There. When Ridgeview finally took the field, the weather had left a silver residue in the air. Mist clung like a veil. The stadium lights cut thin white paths across the turf, and for a few measures, the echo of their steps sounded cathedral plain. The show opened with a measured exhale, soft brass woodwinds weaving under a tenor riff, the drumline a heartbeat back and forth. The guard silks were dark with damp but moved in ribbons that shimmered when the catchlight hit them. The visual impact had been refined during tarp rehearsals. Lines tighter, clean chest angles, a formation that read even when the audience squinted from mist. The judges sat like a small constellation of seriousness. Their clipboards were islands of critique and praise. To the students, those faces were both anonymous and crucial. This was a field where numbers mattered, yet the kids had a quiet, almost private understanding that scoring couldn't account for everything. For the way a phrase landed in a body. For a hand squeeze before a feature. For a breath of laughter at the end that felt like a small triumph. The first big set, what they called the hard unfold, landed with a solidity that made Lisa's ribs hum. In the tight spaces of the stadium, the formation visually read, the heart opening like an instrument itself. The ballad that followed seemed to hang in the fog, each clarinet line delicate and human. Autumn's tone found a fragile place, and she felt it answer her back. For a moment, she believed wholly in the balance between control and feeling. Midway through, the percussion hit a cross rhythm that the crowd felt more than they understood. It was Adam's cue to open a cadence that sailed the visual into a new geometry. He hit the first accented beat with a clean rim shot that made Dante's tenors roll like thunder beneath it. In those seconds, the drumline and pit were not background support. They were the invisible scaffolding that let the rest of the show bloom. There were small imperfections, a step that shortened, a reed that softened. but they were human marks that made the performance believable. Lisa found quick ways to compensate, a slight breath adjustment here, a micro-tempo push there, and the band moved with the flexibility that comes from enough practice in odd places. As they finished, the final chord held, a careful diminuendo into nothing. The stadium seemed to exhale. There was a hush so immediate the sound of rain far beyond the lights sounded like a memory. Then the audience clapped. The applause was tentative at first, then warmer. In the press of that moment, the students felt a quiet, ferocious joy. They had navigated indoor confusion, tarp logistics, damp silks, and schedule reworks to stand under lights and play something true. When the scores were read later, Ridgeview didn't win. Another school nabbed the first-place trophy that night. It would have been easy to let that fact thin the moment, to let second be the void where victory could have been. But the band did something else. They walked off the field with shoulders lifted, smiles anchored in honest work. Mr. Harper stood at the tunnel, clapping as each section passed, his eyes wet in a way that made the kids chuckle and sob at once. "That was heart music," he said to anyone who would listen. "You told the story and you listened to one another." On the bus ride home, the rain that had been a threat all week finally came down in a kind of blessing. Steady, not harsh. It traced lines on the windows and turned the passing headlights into blurred galaxies. The students were tired in a way that felt earned. They passed around bottles of water and quiet jokes, the kind that deepen with shared effort. Autumn tucked her clarinet into its case, fingers lingering on the worn spots, thinking about the next run-through and wondering what small refinement she could make. Dante sat with Adam, and they compared notes on the tenor rhythms and the rim-shot cadence. They traded strategies with easy camaraderie. For all the rivalries that had existed before Dante arrived, real or imagined, there was a shared language now, a set of unspoken rules about how to show up for each other. In that soft, rain-sliced darkness, that was what felt important. Lisa looked at the sleeping rows of faces lit by the bus's faint overhead lights. Her throat tightened in a way she couldn't let the others see. She had wanted to be perfect for this, perfect in sound, in motion, in leadership. But the week had taught her something else. Leadership, she realized, was not the absence of trembling. It was the choice to keep counting through it. She closed her eyes, feeling the steady, reassuring rhythm of a season that would demand patience, adjustments, and steady breaths. They had not won the night's highest prize. They had done something quieter and deeper. They had learned, in practice and under storm, to make music that could stand up to weather. They had learned to trust their drills, to translate a field into a gym into a tarp, and to take the same song from place to place without losing its center. The rain would come again. Practices would be canceled and rescheduled. Reed cases would crack and tarps would gather dirt. But when they lifted their instruments the next time, when lights flashed or a gym swallowed the echo, they would know, in a sudden and certain way, that they could respond. The band, after all, was less about trophies than about the moment when 67 people decided to move together and keep moving, come rain or shine. That night, as the buses rolled into Ridgeview and the familiar water tower blinked its steady logo above the town, Lisa pressed her palm to the podium's railing and let herself feel small and human. She was tired and still a little uncertain, but she was not alone. The band would stagger and improve, and she would keep counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The season, if not seamless, was holding its form. Chapter 4. Sectionals. The week after Willow Creek began quietly. No announcements, no big competitions on the calendar, just the steady return of rhythm, after-school rehearsals, the soft chatter of mouthpieces being warmed, the roll of percussion tuning. For the first time all season, the sky held steady, no threat of rain. Just that cool late September light that made the brass shimmer and the grass look like something worth protecting. Lisa arrived early each afternoon, notebook in hand. She liked to stand at the 50-yard line before anyone else came out, looking at the chalked hash marks like coordinates to some private map. She'd take a slow breath, then another, just long enough to feel the wind change. Leadership wasn't something she ever felt ready for. It was something she grew into one rehearsal at a time. By 4 o'clock, the band was a living machine again. "All right," she called, her voice rising over the chatter of tuning instruments. "Warm-up block, concert F, 2 counts each, crescendo into the third." The sound built slowly, a familiar hum that filled the field like a kind of forgiveness. Brass, woodwinds, percussion, all different languages tuning toward a shared center. The clarinets carried the middle frequencies, the trumpets flared high above, the tubas grounded everything in something steady and low. When it locked in just right, you could feel it rather than hear it. Adam felt it in his ribs first. The snare line stood in perfect alignment, sticks poised, eyes straight ahead. Their warm-up sequence had its own ritual: flam accents, tap drags, a pyramid of rolls that grew tighter with each pass. When they nailed the final unison double stroke, Harper clapped once. Lock it in, that's what clean feels like. Adam grinned, barely. He didn't smile much during practice, but he felt that one hit deep. The kind of hit where your sticks almost disappear, where it feels like everyone's timing just exists in the same shared breath. He'd chase that feeling again tomorrow. Over by the sideline, Autumn ran her clarinet through long tones. She was still working through tiny intonation issues, those fractional pitch wobbles that drove her half mad when she listened back to recordings. Today, though, she was trying something new. Instead of aiming for perfect, she tried to listen for blend. Her sections sat in a semicircle, each player adjusting subtly to match the next. "Don't lead with volume," she said quietly to the sophomore beside her. "Lead with color." The girl nodded, and when they played again, the sound softened. Not weaker, just closer to right. That was what Autumn loved most about marching band. It wasn't about who got first chair anymore. It was about a group of strangers learning to sound like one body. By midweek, Harper called for sectionals. Every group split off into their own little corners of campus, like satellites orbiting the same gravitational center. The brass took the east lawn, the woodwinds claimed the shaded courtyard by the music wing, and percussion set up in the half-empty parking lot where the asphalt echoed like an outdoor studio. Sectionals had their own rhythm, bursts of laughter, frustration, occasional harmony that made people turn their heads. It was the raw workshop version of a band before the Polish came in. Lisa floated between groups, clipboard in hand. Not to supervise, more to listen. Leadership, she was learning, was about knowing when to speak and when to shut up. The brass were wrestling with balance. Low brass overpowering trumpets, mellophones fading out. "It's like trying to mix a smoothie with too much tuba," one freshman said, and the laughter helped everyone relax. Lisa didn't correct them right away. She waited until they'd self-adjusted, which they did. That was growth. In the woodwind courtyard, Autumn had taken over the role of impromptu instructor. "Think legato," she said, clapping a slow rhythm. "You're phrasing like you're afraid of the air." "Sorry," someone muttered. "No, sorry," Autumn said gently. "Just breathe deeper." She demonstrated inhale, exhale, tone, and the difference was instant. The notes connected, the phrases curved instead of clipped. Harper had told her once that tone wasn't about equipment, it was about courage. She didn't fully understand it then, but now, watching the sound open up around her, she did. Meanwhile, percussion had turned the parking lot into a construction zone of rhythm. Tenors on one side, basses on the other, snares dead center. Adam counted them in, a soft 1, 2 under his breath before the whole line came alive. It wasn't perfect. One bass drummer lagged, the third tenor overplayed, but it was music being built in real time, the kind of repetition that didn't feel like punishment, just necessity. After the final cadence, Dante exhaled, spinning his sticks once before letting them rest across the drums. "We're close," he said. Adam nodded. "Close means we're finally hearing each other." Dante grinned. "Guess the rain made us tighter." "Or tired," Adam said, but his tone was lighter than usual. When they regrouped later that afternoon, the field looked like a patchwork of progress. Lisa climbed the podium again. The sunset cast long shadows across the numbers painted on the grass. 40, 30, 20, like the score of a song she hadn't finished reading. "Full run-through," she said into the mic. "No stops, let's see where we're at." The command spread like current. Students adjusted shakos, fixed gloves, and took their starting positions. Silence fell. Then came the first downbeat. The opener bloomed across the field, bold, deliberate, alive. Lisa's hands traced wide arcs in the air, every motion confident now. She could feel the rhythm of 70 bodies trusting her to guide the pulse. Every correction from last week, every indoor drill, every muddy-footed rehearsal, this was where it showed. The trumpets came in cleaner. The clarinets moved in perfect step with a low brass curve. The drum line hit the groove so tight it sounded mechanical, but felt human. Even the guard, drenched so many times this season, caught their tosses in perfect synchrony. For once, everything just worked. From the bleachers, Harper watched quietly, arms folded, face unreadable. He didn't stop them, didn't call out a single correction. He just watched as the band built its shape, note by note, into something that felt inevitable. When the final chord faded, no one moved. The field seemed to breathe with them. Then Harper spoke, voice cutting through the fading sound. "That," he said softly, "is what it means to rehearse your heart out." Later, when the floodlights clicked off and the band packed up, everyone lingered a little longer than usual. Autumn sat on the curb near the 50, polishing her clarinet. Dante tossed a drumstick into the air, catching it without looking. Adam stretched his wrists, sweat-soaked but content. Lisa, clipboard tucked under her arm, walked one last circuit of the field, counting steps, double-checking markers. Not because she needed to, just because she couldn't help herself. "You ever stop working?" Adam called out. She smiled faintly. "Not really." He laughed. "Figured." But there was no mockery in it, just understanding. The kind of quiet, mutual respect that came after hours of repetition and rain and noise. As the last of the band left the field, Harper turned to Lisa. "Good work today," he said. "Thanks," she replied, brushing hair from her face. "They're starting to trust each other." He nodded, looking out over the empty yard. "That's how it starts, one rehearsal at a time." That night, Lisa wrote the word balance in her notebook. Not victory, not precision, not perfection, just that. Because she was starting to realize something simple and beautiful. The sound wasn't hers to control, it was theirs to share. And when the whole band moved in time, when every breath synced and every downbeat hit together, it wasn't just music. It was proof that 100 hearts could beat in formation. Chapter 5. Lights at halftime. The stadium hums like it's alive. The air tastes of kettle corn and turf smoke, the kind of electric tension that makes every note sharper, every heartbeat louder. Lisa stands on the 50-yard line, chin up, baton poised like a blade catching the glare of the floodlights. Around her, the band waits hundreds of breaths held in the dark, the halftime show balanced on a single downbeat. She hears the crowd roaring for the football team's last-minute touchdown, but it's all just noise now. When the buzzer blares and the announcer's voice echoes, "And now, the Central High Marching Lions," she lets herself exhale. "Form 1," Lisa shouts, voice slicing cleanly through the chaos. Like gears snapping into motion, the band moves. Drumline first, then brass, then woodwind sliding into formation. Adam catches her eye briefly, his sticks already twirling in his fingers, the faintest smirk on his face before he looks away to his snare. Autumn checks her reed one last time, nervously aligning herself beside the others in the clarinet block. Dante adjusts his shako, heart pounding, remembering the last time he performed on this field as the enemy. The whistle pierces the night, the lights dim, and then the show begins. The drums start first, Adam's rhythm clean, pulsing with command, carrying everyone into motion. He's not thinking about the yelling at home, or the dented practice pad in his room, just this. The beat, the precision, the way the sound vibrates through the soles of his shoes. Lisa moves like she's not leading, but pulling the sound from the field itself. Her arm sweeps, baton flashing, every gesture precise and commanding. She knows they're watching the judges, the crowd, her parents in the stands, and if her hands tremble, she won't let them see. Autumn feels the breath of every clarinet around her, the unison built from countless hours in the practice room. The sound blooms and carries, and for once she isn't trying to outplay anyone, she's just part of something vast and shimmering. And Dante, he hits his mark, horn up, steps matching perfectly. No one sneers at him now. He's one of them, his embouchure steady, his body moving with the pulse that binds them all. For a moment, he forgets he was ever a transfer or that this field used to hate him. The show builds crescendos rising, brass cutting bright against the night sky. The formations twist and bloom, spiraling into hearts, stars, motion-made music. From the press box, the crowd looks like it's watching a storm of color and light, every instrument glinting with fire. Then the lights drop blackout. Only the drums remain. Adam and the line take over, syncopated thunder rippling across the field. The crowd cheers, stomping along until, bam, lights burst back to life. Lisa cues the band's final formation, the heart. It blooms from center field outward sections, spinning into perfect alignment until at the final chord, the entire formation glows red under the spotlights. Applause explodes. Lisa lowers her baton, breathing hard, her heart hammering in rhythm with the echoing snare. She glances back once more. Adam's got sweat running down his temple, a grin splitting his face. Autumn's beaming, clarinet still raised. Dante looks stunned like he can't quite believe it worked. The announcer's voice returns, booming. Ladies and gentlemen, the Central High Marching Lions. The cheer that follows is deafening. As they march off the field, the adrenaline begins to fade. The lights shrink behind them. Lisa holds her baton close against her chest, feeling the residual tremor in her hands. You killed it out there, Adam says, bumping her shoulder as they head toward the tunnel. She exhales a laugh. We all did. Autumn catches up, still flushed with excitement. Did you see the crowd during the drum break? They were losing it. Dante nods, quieter, but his smile is real. I've never seen a formation that clean, he says. Guess I picked the right band after all. Lisa looks back at the glowing field, the heart still faintly visible under the lights. Yeah, she murmurs, you did. The fireworks start a few minutes later, showering the sky with gold. The band gathers by the equipment trucks, laughing, shedding shakos and gloves. The night smells like rain again, but nobody runs for cover. They just stand there, faces tipped up to the sky, watching the color fall still caught in the rhythm of something bigger than any of them. For the first time in weeks, Lisa's hands are steady. Chapter 6. Midnight Measures. The show was over, but the sound hadn't stopped. It lingered in everyone's bones. The echo of drums, the breath between notes, the rush that didn't know how to fade. Lisa sat in the back booth of the only place still open past 11, Lou's Diner, 2 blocks from the stadium, lights buzzing faintly above Formica tables. The place smelled of coffee, fries, and wet asphalt. The band had practically taken it over. Uniform jackets hanging on chairbacks, plumes discarded, shakos stacked like trophies. Somebody remind me to patent the halftime heart, Adam said, leaning back in his seat with a fry dangling from his fingers. It's gonna be our legacy. Autumn laughed. You mean Lisa's legacy? She's the one who designed the drill. Lisa stirred her milkshake and didn't look up. It was everyone's show, she said. Her voice was calm, but her body still carried the hum of the field, the perfection she chased, and the mistake that almost wasn't one, Dante's near slip in the second movement that no one else seemed to notice. Except her, she always noticed. Across from her, Dante sat quietly, elbows on the table, half listening, half absorbing. The diner lights reflected in the window beside him, blurring the world outside into streaks of amber and black. You all really do this every week? He asked, glancing at the others. Perform like your lives depend on it, then end up here for milkshakes and fries? Pretty much, Adam said, raising his cup. It's tradition. Win, lose, or rain delay. Autumn tapped her straw against her glass, her smile fading just a little. Not everyone comes every time? Lisa didn't answer. There was a beat of silence, the kind that fills itself with things unsaid. Then the jukebox in the corner clicked and a low saxophone riff drifted out, something old and smoky. The moment broke. Adam reached into his bag and pulled out a drumstick. You know what I realized tonight? He said, twirling it between his fingers. For 3 minutes, with all that noise and light, nobody out there was thinking about the score. Just us. Just the sound. Felt like... He hesitated, searching for the word. Freedom, I guess. Lisa's eyes flicked toward him. For someone who lived inside rhythm, Adam had a way of saying things that hit off beat, but landed true. Autumn leaned forward. It's weird, right? We spend all this time trying to be perfect, but the best part is when it's messy, when it's alive. Yeah, Dante murmured, alive. Outside, thunder rolled faintly, the storm they'd been promised all week, arriving late. Raindrops started ticking against the glass. The neon sign outside the diner flickered pink and blue across their faces. Lisa exhaled. You guys should get home before it gets worse. Adam grinned. Says the girl who'll probably be back at the field at sunrise, fixing drill sheets. Maybe, she admitted. But she didn't move to leave. Neither did he. Autumn gathered her things, Dante following, murmuring goodbyes. Soon it was just Lisa and Adam, the rain and the low hum of the diner's ancient refrigerator filling the air. You were amazing tonight, Adam said softly, setting his drumstick down between them. You know that, right? Lisa's mouth twitched. I missed a cue on the second set. No one noticed. I did. He leaned closer, elbows on the table. Lisa, you can't conduct life like it's a halftime show. Sometimes you just play. Her laugh came out as more of a breath. Easy for you to say, your rhythm, you live in motion. I just try to keep everyone together. Adam smiled, a little sadly. Yeah, but maybe you don't have to hold everything together all the time. The rain intensified, drumming on the roof like a snare line gone rogue. Lisa glanced up, watching the ceiling lights shimmer in rhythm with the storm. Maybe, she said quietly. He stood, stretching. Come on, I'll walk you out. The bell above the door jingled as they stepped into the rain. The world outside was all blur and reflection, the empty streets slick with color, the smell of ozone sharp in the air. Lisa tilted her face up, letting the drops hit her skin. For once, she didn't flinch. Adam pulled his hoodie over his head. You're gonna catch a cold. Maybe I deserve one, she said with a grin that surprised even her. They stood there a moment longer, rain soaking their shoes, the world muffled by its own music. The streetlights shimmered across the puddles like 1,000 miniature spotlights. See you at practice, Adam said finally, turning toward the parking lot. Lisa nodded, watching him go. Then she glanced back at the diner window, where their reflections lingered for just a heartbeat. Hers with a baton in hand, his with drumsticks tucked into his back pocket. Two halves of the same measure, caught between control and release. The rain fell harder. She didn't move. For the first time in a long time, Lisa wasn't thinking about tomorrow's formations or the next competition. She was just there, standing under the lights, feeling the pulse of the world and the rhythm of her own heart, finally keeping time. Chapter 7. The Rival Show. The buses rolled into the fairgrounds just after sunrise, the sky streaked in soft orange and violet. The Ridgeview High Marching Band, bleary-eyed but buzzing, filed out in neat lines, instruments clutched like lifelines. There was something electric in the air, not nerves exactly, but awareness. Today wasn't just any competition. Today, Dante's old school, Westfield Central, was here too. Lisa could feel the tension ripple through the sections as she stepped down from the lead bus. Her baton was tucked neatly under her arm, her posture flawless as ever, but her mind was already subdividing time signatures and visualizing form transitions. The air smelled of grass, metal, and diesel. She inhaled deeply, grounding herself. All right, everyone, she called, her voice clear and steady. Unload the pit first, then uniforms, then warm-up gear. Percussion, you know your zones. Winds, stay close to the buses until we're set. Adam stretched his arms, rolling his shoulders, drum harness already strapped in place. Feels weird seeing their colors again, he said quietly, nodding toward the Westfield buses parked 2 rows away. Their uniforms were deep navy and gold, sharp, intimidating, professional. Dante followed his gaze. Yeah, he murmured. They've got more people this year, 2 new synth players I heard. Let 'em have their fancy toys, Adam said with a grin. We've got heart. Autumn arrived then, clarinet case in hand, her hair still damp from a rushed morning shower. And actual rhythm, which helps, she added dryly. Lisa hid a smile. Focus, all of you, it's not about them. But she knew, in some unspoken way, that it was. Every band in the lineup knew it too. The fairgrounds were alive by mid-morning. Trumpets blaring warm-ups, sousaphones echoing low against metal bleachers, the smell of funnel cake and rain-soaked earth mixing into something uniquely band. From the judges' tower, speakers blared snippets of rehearsal music, the kind of background noise that made everyone's pulse quicken. Ridgeview's assigned warm-up field was small, tucked near a barn that still smelled faintly of hay. The percussion line set up first, Adam calling out counts with clipped precision. The rest of the band followed, low brass to the left, woodwinds to the right, color guard in arcs of spinning silks that caught the light like waves. Lisa watched from the center, every beat running through her like an extension of her own body. She moved between sections, adjusting, correcting, encouraging. Autumn, clarinets, blend your tone in that chorale. Don't push, let it shimmer. Autumn nodded, tightening her embouchure. Got it. Adam's sticks clicked once, twice. Battery ready. Lisa raised her whistle, counted off, and the band launched into the opening movement of their show. The sound built fast, bright brass, tight snare rolls, woodwinds threading melody through it all. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive. And then, over the distant noise of the fairgrounds, another band began their warm-up. A wall of sound, polished and fierce. Westfield Central. Dante froze mid-note. Even from here, he recognized their cadence, the exact pattern he'd practiced hundreds of times before transferring schools. For a moment, muscle memory pulled at him, his fingers almost moving instinctively to match the beat. Lisa noticed the flicker in his posture. She stepped closer. Hey, she said quietly, eyes here. He blinked, meeting her gaze. You're Ridgeview now, she said. Play like it. Something in his shoulders softened, then steadied. Yes, ma'am. By the time they took the field for performance, the stands were full, the sun had burned through the morning haze, and the air shimmered with heat and expectation. Lisa stood on the podium, hands poised, scanning the field. The familiar rush hit her, a blend of adrenaline and quiet focus. Her world narrowed to the band before her and the judges above. Drum major, the announcer's voice echoed over the PA. Is your band ready? Lisa raised her baton, voice ringing clear. Ridgeview High School is ready. A murmur of applause and then silence. She gave the downbeat. The show unfolded like muscle memory and miracle. The brass lines surged through their opening fanfare, drums locked perfectly in time, guard silks rippling in unison. Lisa moved with them, cueing every shift, every tempo change, her motion sharp but fluid. From the sidelines, Adam caught her glance just once, long enough to anchor them both. The crowd responded in waves, clapping during crescendos, gasping as the heart formation bloomed at center field. This time, it looked perfect. No hesitation, no misstep. Lisa's breath caught as the final chord built, shimmering in layered harmony. And then it ended, sudden and complete. Silence. Then thunderous applause. Lisa held her position through the cutoff, baton froze in midair until the echo faded. Only then did she lower her arms. The field erupted in cheers. Back behind the stands, the band loosened into laughter and high fives, adrenaline fading into relief. Did you see that guard toss? Autumn said, still flushed from the run. I swear it brushed the sun. Adam grinned. I think I broke a stick on the closer. Worth it. Dante exhaled deeply. That was different, he said softly. When I played for Westfield, it always felt like a job. This felt... He stopped, searching for the right word. Home? Autumn offered. He smiled. Yeah, that. Lisa approached then, clipboard tucked under her arm. Great work, everyone, she said. No matter what happens in scores, that was one of our best runs. Adam nudged her shoulder lightly. You actually smiled up there. Did I? Yeah, scared me a little. Lisa laughed, a real one this time. As dusk fell, the award ceremony began under the glow of stadium lights. Bands lined up in rows, uniforms crisp again, instruments polished. The announcer's voice echoed through the night, reading off captions, placements, and scores. When Ridgeview's name came up, second place overall, there was a cheer, loud and proud. Westfield took first, as everyone had expected, but the difference between them was slim, less than a single point. Lisa glanced toward Dante, who was watching Westfield's drum major accept the trophy. You okay? She asked. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I needed to see it, to know I made the right choice. Lisa looked out at the field, the lights, the banners, the shimmer of brass under the moon. We're getting closer, she said. He smiled. Yeah, we are. The Ridgeview band gathered close, arms over shoulders, sweat and pride mixing into something wordless. The night was cool now, the stars sharp above them, the stadium quieting as other schools packed up. Adam lifted his drumsticks and tapped a slow cadence on his leg. One by one, others joined in, feet stomping, hands clapping, instruments echoing soft notes. Their sound carried across the dark field, not competition, not victory, just music. Lisa closed her eyes and listened. This was what she'd wanted all along. Not perfection, not even first place. Just this, the sound of hearts in formation. Chapter 8, The Long Rehearsal. The sun had not yet cleared the tree line when Ridgeview's band began to play. The air was thick with humidity, the kind that clung to the skin and made breath taste like metal. The field lights still glowed faintly, their bulbs fighting the dawn. Out in the center, rows of uniforms, half-zipped, sleeves tied around waists, moved in formation across the dewy grass. Lisa stood on the podium, baton poised, her voice carried over the speakers. Set 2, ready, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. A sea of movement. Trumpets marked diagonals, tubas rotated in halftime. The woodwinds traced an arc toward the 45-yard line. And still, one clarinet was half a beat late. Lisa's whistle pierced the air. Stop, reset from the transition. Autumn, you're dragging the turn. Autumn groaned under her breath, but lifted her clarinet again. Got it? She knew Lisa was right. It wasn't the first time that section of drill tripped her up. The shift between the chorale and the accelerando into the heart formation. Still, the sting of being called out in front of everyone never dulled. The field quieted. The low hum of insects filled the pause. Adam, sitting cross-legged by the drum line, tapped a slow rhythm on his snare pad. We've been at it 3 hours, he muttered. 3 hours and 12 minutes, Dante corrected, spinning his trumpet lightly. But who's counting? Lisa raised her baton again. From the top of set 2, let's clean that alignment. Groans rippled through the band, but they obeyed. The metronome cracked over the speakers. 170 beats per minute, relentless. The music surged back to life. By mid-morning, the heat had risen. The brass section shimmered in the sun, instruments gleaming like mirrors. Sweat darkened the backs of uniforms. Water bottles lay scattered along the sidelines like tiny life preservers. Lisa's voice came again, steady and focused. Watch your spacing, low brass, you're collapsing the center arc. Adam looked up from his drum harness, squinting at her against the glare. She was tireless, baton flashing, hair damp with sweat, posture perfect even as her face pinked from the sun. He admired her precision, even if it made the rest of them feel human by comparison. Break for 5, she finally called. The collective sigh could have powered the stadium lights. Autumn flopped down beside Dante, pulling off her hat. I'm melting, she said, fanning herself with a drill chart. Think positive, he replied. At least we're symmetrical puddles. Adam dropped his sticks into the grass and joined them, gulping from his water jug. You think Lisa ever takes an actual break? Autumn followed his gaze toward the podium, where Lisa stood with her clipboard, marking notes even as the rest of them sprawled in the grass. Not unless someone forces her. Should we? Force her, Autumn grinned. You're braver than me. Adam shrugged. She deserves 5 minutes of not being perfect. He jogged over to the podium, calling up to her. Hey, Captain Metronome, you're gonna fry up there. Lisa looked down from her perch, eyebrows raised. Captain what? Come on, take a break, he said. You've earned one. She hesitated. The instinct to say no came first, like a reflex. But when she glanced over the field, the kids stretched in patches of sunlight, the brass line laughing near the bleachers, the smell of cut grass rising in waves, something in her chest eased. All right, she said finally, stepping down. 5 minutes. Adam saluted with a grin. Progress. They walked toward the sideline together, boots sinking slightly into the soft turf. Do you ever get tired of being in charge? He asked. Lisa gave a small laugh. Constantly. But if I stop, the whole thing wobbles. Yeah, he said. But maybe the wobble's where the magic happens. She looked at him. That's a very drummer thing to say. Good means it's probably true. By afternoon, rehearsal had shifted inside the gym. The sound changed, brighter, sharper, reverberating off the walls. They worked on transitions, tone, blend. Lisa moved among the sections, offering quiet corrections. Dante adjusted the brass section's articulation, his voice calm but confident. Autumn ran the clarinets through their runs until the notes lined up like beads on a string. And Adam, always restless, led the battery through a drill so tight it drew applause from the woodwinds. It was the kind of day that stretched forever, time measured only by metronome clicks and the rhythm of footsteps. By evening, exhaustion had turned into something softer, momentum. The field lights hummed back to life, bathing the grass in silver. Lisa stood again on her podium, calling out, "One last full run." No one complained this time. The show began. From the opening brass fanfare to the sweeping woodwind line, it flowed cleaner than ever before. The heart formation locked perfectly. The final chord rang out pure and bold, lifting into the twilight like something holy. Lisa's baton froze at the cutoff. Silence. Then, cheers, laughter, the rush of triumph that came from knowing they'd earned it. She climbed down slowly, letting herself smile. That, she said quietly, is what it's supposed to feel like. Autumn leaned on her clarinet, flushed and glowing. You're gonna make me cry if you keep that up. Dante laughed. She's right, though. That one felt different. Adam nodded. Like we stopped trying to be perfect and just started being a band. Lisa looked at the four of them, her chest tight in the best way. Then that's the goal, she said. Every time from here on out. The lights flickered once as if agreeing. They packed up slowly, the sound of zippers and laughter filling the night. The last thing Lisa did before leaving was glance back at the field. Chalk lines faint, grass flattened where they'd marched again and again. It looked tired, so did she, but it was the kind of tired that meant something. The kind that said, we're getting there. Chapter 9. Autumn Solo. The air in September tastes different, cooler, sweeter, sharper around the edges. The trees lining Westbrook High's courtyard begin to rust at their tips. Flecks of orange and yellow sneaking in like shy confessions. Inside the gym, though, it's still summer hot. The sound of sneakers squeaking on the waxed floor mixes with the brass section running scales, filling the space with a restless hum. Autumn stands at center court, baton in hand, pulse quickening in sync with the snare line warming up behind her. The light from the high windows spills across her hair, copper catching fire. She's been practicing for the solo for weeks. Every night after homework, every morning before school, when the dew still clings to the grass outside her window. The homecoming show is in 3 days, and everyone's watching. Okay, Coach Ramirez calls from the bleachers, clapping her hands once. Let's see it again from the top, Autumn. Big energy this time. Make it yours. Autumn nods, swallows hard, and raises the baton. The first note hits a brassy, triumphant burst from the trumpets, and she begins to move. Every pivot, every twirl feels like breathing through fire. Her nerves, which had been jittering all morning, burn into focus. She can almost feel the rhythm climb through her arms and down her spine. From the sidelines, Jamie watches quietly, tapping a rhythm against her thigh. There's something about Autumn's presence, not just confidence, but honesty. Every spin looks like she's letting go of something invisible. When the routine ends with a final toss, the baton spinning 3, 4, 5 times before Autumn catches it perfectly, the whole gym bursts into cheers. Autumn's cheeks flush crimson. Was that okay? She asks, breathless. Okay, Coach laughs. That was the best you've ever done. Keep that up and halftime will feel like a movie. Jamie walks over, still smiling. You looked like you were on fire out there. Probably because it's 100 degrees in here, Autumn jokes, pushing sweat-soaked hair from her forehead. But thanks. Jamie shrugs. I'm serious. You've got this glow when you perform. It's like... She hesitates, then grins. Like you forget we're all watching. Autumn blinks, surprised. You think so? I know so. Their eyes meet a second longer than intended. The gym noise fades for just that heartbeat, just them, standing close enough for the world to shrink down to one look. Then the percussion kicks up again, breaking the spell. Hey, Jamie says quickly, pulling back. Want to run through your transitions again? I can play the recording. Autumn exhales, smiling with relief. Yeah, that'd be great. They spend the next hour going through the steps, Jamie crouched with her phone, replaying the track over and over, offering quiet feedback while Autumn dances the same pattern, refining every beat. Between takes, they talk about music, about nerves, about the weird quiet that comes before a big performance. By the end, the gym's mostly empty. Only the two of them remain. Autumn sitting cross-legged on the court, Jamie lying flat beside her, watching the lights dim to amber. You ever get scared before a show? Autumn asks softly. Jamie lets out a slow breath. Every single time. Even now? Especially now. They both laugh quietly, like they're sharing a secret. The loudspeaker buzzes, announcing the gym's closing time. Autumn stands, stretches, and offers Jamie a hand. Thanks for staying late, she says. You didn't have to. Yeah, I did, Jamie replies. You're my friend. Then, after a pause, and I like seeing you shine. Autumn doesn't say anything for a second. The lights above them flicker once, then steady. When she finally smiles, it's small but certain. Then I'll make sure it's worth watching. Outside, the evening's cooling wind carries the faint sound of drums from the marching field. Tomorrow, the whole town will gather to watch them perform lights, brass, color, and heart, all in motion. And somewhere beneath that golden sky, Autumn will take the field, solo baton in hand, ready to burn. Chapter 10, Homecoming Night. The air outside the stadium buzzes with the kind of electricity that only happens on homecoming night. The crowd already stamping their feet, the smell of popcorn drifting across the field, the marching band's uniforms gleaming beneath the floodlights. The whole school seems to breathe as one, caught between noise and nerves, pride and performance. In the staging area behind the bleachers, Lisa stands at the front of the band, baton in hand, back straight as a ruler. She's been rehearsing this entrance for weeks, every turn, every cue, every count. Her white gloves tremble just slightly when she adjusts her hat, but she hides it like she always does with posture, poise, and the sharp inhale of someone who refuses to let their hand shake. 2 minutes, everyone, Coach Ramirez calls. Remember your marks, breathe, trust the work. Lisa's throat feels dry as chalk. Trust the work, she tells herself. She glances behind her at the others, Adam tapping his sticks nervously against his leg, Autumn twirling her clarinet mouthpiece to distract herself, Dante adjusting the strap on his borrowed saxophone with quiet, uncertain focus. Hey, Lisa startles a little when Adam nudges her elbow. You good, Major? Always, she says automatically. He grins. You sure? 'Cause your jaw's doing that thing again? She clenches it tighter. It's called discipline. Adam just laughs. Yeah, okay, Sergeant. Lisa sighs, but the corner of her mouth twitches. Adam's been like this since freshman year, too relaxed, too effortless, too good. His rhythms were always perfect, even when he wasn't trying. But lately, she's noticed the tired look in his eyes, the way he zones out between songs. Rumor says his dad left last spring. He hasn't said a word about it. She wants to ask, but the whistle blows. Time's up. The band forms up in 2 lines, instruments snapping into position. Lisa raises her baton. The stadium roar fades into a low hum in her chest, adrenaline and fear tangled together. And then they march. The crowd erupts as Westbrook's marching falcons sweep onto the field, flags unfurling like fire. The brass section blares their opening fanfare, and Lisa's arms move in crisp, perfect arcs. Every beat lands exactly where it should. Halfway down the field, Adam's snare solo cuts through the noise crisp, technical, alive. His sticks blur under the lights, and for a moment he looks at peace. Lisa catches his eye and gives him a barely there nod. His grin flashes back. Got it covered. Then comes Autumn's section. The band drops to half volume, and her clarinet solo rises clear, trembling, beautiful. The sound weaves through the night air, fragile but full of heart. It's the same passage she's been stumbling over for weeks, but tonight it flows effortlessly. Dante listens from a few steps away, fingers poised on his sax keys, smiling quietly. He'd joined the band only a month ago, and he still catches whispers sometimes the rival kid, the spy from Eastview. But tonight, hearing Autumn play, he feels something shift inside. It doesn't matter where he's from, not out here under these lights. When his cue comes, he jumps in, his tone warm and smoky, blending with hers. Clarinet and sax, together a duet that wasn't in the original arrangement. Lisa notices it, nearly misses a count, but lets it happen. It's too good to stop. The sound winds through the night like something alive, a thread connecting every heartbeat in the stadium. By the time the band reaches the closing fanfare, the bleachers are a sea of cheers and phone lights. Lisa's arms ache from the tempo. Adam's wrists burn. Dante's heart pounds like a drum inside his chest. Autumn finishes her last note and almost collapses with relief. When the final chord rings out, Lisa lowers her baton. The echo hangs for a breathless second. Then thunder. Applause shakes the ground. They've done it. After the show, the band gathers behind the stadium, breath steaming in the cool night air. Everyone's laughing, shouting, slapping backs, too high on adrenaline to calm down. Lisa finally lets herself exhale, shoulders sagging. Her gloves are damp with sweat. "We nailed it," she says softly, mostly to herself. "Yeah, we did." Adam drops beside her on the curb, drum still slung over his shoulder. "Even you look like you were having fun for once." She rolls her eyes. "I am fun." He raises an eyebrow. "Sure." There's a silence between them, the kind that isn't awkward, just full. She glances at him sideways. "Your solo was incredible." "Yours too, Commander." He smiles faintly. "But hey, thanks." "For what?" "For keeping me on beat, even when I don't feel it." Lisa hesitates, not sure what he means. But before she can ask, Coach Ramirez calls for cleanup. Adam stands, gives her a mock salute, and jogs off. Nearby, Autumn sits cross-legged on the grass, peeling off her gloves, the silver keys of her clarinet catching the moonlight. Dante sits next to her, knees drawn up. "I can't believe you improvised that," she says, still breathless. "You're gonna get us both yelled at." He grins. "You kidding? That's the loudest the crowd got all night." She laughs, shaking her head. "You really didn't have to back me up like that." "Yeah, I did," he says simply. "You sounded like you were playing for something bigger." Her voice softens. "Maybe I was." The wind picks up, carrying the sounds of distant fireworks and the muffled beat of music from the after-party. For the first time in months, Autumn doesn't feel like she's trying to prove anything. She just feels part of it. Later, as the field empties, Lisa does one last check of the equipment truck. The floodlights have gone out, leaving the stadium draped in blue twilight. She leans against the railing, the night finally quiet. The echo of the show still hums through her every beat, every sound. But this time, the perfection didn't feel like pressure. It felt like music. Real, human, messy, alive. "Good job, Major." Coach Ramirez's voice comes softly from behind her. Lisa turns, smiling faintly. "Thanks, I think we earned it." Ramirez nods. "You did, all of you." She pauses, looking at the field. "You know, sometimes the best moments aren't the ones we plan." Lisa looks out at the grass, where Autumn and Dante's duet had taken everyone by surprise. She smiles. "Yeah, I'm starting to see that." And under the cooling autumn sky, the last light of homecoming fades, leaving behind something that feels like more than victory. Something like hope. Chapter 11. After the fireworks. The last of the fireworks linger like ghosts drifting silver trails fading into the dark. The stadium lights are off now, the field still humming faintly from the energy of the homecoming game. On the far side of the parking lot, the Ridgeview marching band gathers around a few old folding tables for the after-party. A Bluetooth speaker hums with soft pop music. Someone's phone flashlight serves as a lantern, and everything smells faintly of rain, grass, and barbecue smoke. For the first time all season, nobody's talking about scores or drills or who missed what count. The only rhythm now is laughter, uneven, tired, real. Lisa sits on a metal folding chair near the edge of the circle, still in uniform except for her gloves, which she's folded neatly beside her soda cup. She's quiet, watching everyone unwind. Adam's leaning back on his drum case, telling an exaggerated story about a mosquito the size of a piccolo. Autumn is laughing so hard she nearly drops her plate. Dante, sitting beside her, adds dry commentary every few seconds that somehow makes the story even funnier. It's ordinary, and that's what makes it perfect. Coach Ramirez claps her hands once. All right, team, before we wrap up tonight, let's give it up for your drum major and your soloists. A chorus of cheers goes up. Lisa blushes so hard she has to look down. Autumn hides her face behind her clarinet case. Adam whoops, banging his sticks against the side of the drum like a rim shot. Dante gives a small, good-natured bow. When the noise finally fades, Ramirez continues. You've come a long way since August. I know state's still ahead, but I want you to remember tonight. This was what it's supposed to feel like. The music, the teamwork, the fun. Don't lose that. Not ever. Someone shouts, "Speech!" and the group bursts into laughter again. Lisa stands, flustered. Okay, she says, voice small. I guess I'll say something. Dozens of eyes turn to her. The band falls quiet. For a heartbeat, she feels that familiar pressure, that all eyes on her feeling that tightens her throat. But she breathes in, the way she does before every downbeat, and something steadies inside her. I just want to say thank you, she starts, for showing up, for pushing through the heat, the rain, the crazy schedules, for trusting me even when I was a little strict. A ripple of laughter. Lisa smiles faintly. I know I can be hard on everyone, but it's because I know how good you all are. Tonight proved it. We're more than just a bunch of sections. We're a band. We're us. A long moment of quiet follows. The words hang there, simple and true. Then Adam starts clapping slow and loud. Others join in. Lisa sits back down, cheeks flushed. Autumn leans over and whispers, "That was actually really good." Thanks, Lisa mutters, pretending to sip her soda so no one sees her smile. A few minutes later, the party winds down. Half the group heads to their cars. A few linger by the truck, still buzzing about the performance. Adam stretches his arms over his head and groans. Man, my wrists are going to hate me tomorrow. Worth it, Dante says, slinging his sax case over one shoulder. Totally worth it, Autumn agrees. That solo, I still can't believe that actually happened. It worked, Dante says. Sometimes you've got to break the chart to make it sing. Autumn laughs. You sound like a poet. Or a guy who got yelled at by his old band director for doing the same thing. That makes her laugh harder. For once, she doesn't overthink the sound of it. Lisa joins them, looking more relaxed than she has all season. You two really pulled it off, she says. That duet, it changed everything. Dante shakes his head. You're the one who didn't stop it. That's leadership. Lisa looks down, surprised by the compliment. Maybe, or maybe I just knew it was right. The group stands there a while longer, talking about nothing and everything which contests they're most nervous for. Who's going to forget their plumes again? What songs they'd play if they could pick the halftime show themselves? The parking lot lights hum above them, moths circling lazily in the glow. Eventually, Coach Ramirez calls out, 10 minutes, everyone. They start packing up. Adam grabs the last few cases and loads them into the truck. His shirt sticks to his back. His hands smell faintly of drumstick resin and sweat. But he doesn't mind. For the first time in a long time, home feels close, even if it's just this field, this band, these people. When he finishes, Lisa's standing nearby, helmet tucked under her arm, staring out at the empty field. You ever think about how weird it is that all this work, she gestures at the field, is over in 10 minutes? Adam grins. Hey, 10 minutes can change a lot. She smiles, thinking about the crowd, the music, the moment where everything felt like it clicked. Yeah, she says softly, I guess it can. Later, when the buses pull out, the night outside is calm again. The fireworks are gone, the crowd is home, and only the moonlight reflects on the shiny brass of the instruments stacked neatly in their cases. Autumn leans against the window, earphones in, eyes half closed. Dante's beside her, sketching a new formation idea in the corner of his notebook. Adam slumped in the seat behind them, half asleep with his headphones around his neck. Lisa sits near the front, head resting against the cool glass, baton case in her lap. She watches the blur of streetlights go by and feels something she hasn't in a while, not pride, not relief, but peace. Tonight wasn't perfect. A few notes were missed, the timing slipped once or twice. But it didn't matter. For the first time, it wasn't about perfection. It was about sound, movement, trust hearts, and formation. And for the first time since she became drum major, Lisa lets herself smile, not the sharp leader smile she gives in uniform, but a small, unguarded one, the kind that means she's exactly where she's supposed to be. In the front seat, Coach Ramirez hums softly to herself, glancing at the reflection of the students in the rearview mirror. Her voice is barely a whisper, more thought than sound. "Yeah," she says, "they're ready." The bus rolls into the night headlights, cutting through the dark, carrying the music of Ridgeview High forward into the next dawn. Chapter 12, State Week. The morning sky over Ridgeview High is a pale wash of gray, the kind of color that promises either triumph or disaster. It's Monday of State Week, and every inch of the practice field feels charged with nerves. The grass is slick from the previous night's rain. The air smells faintly of brass polish and sunscreen. And somewhere in the distance, a whistle pierces the wind. Lisa Vance stands at the 50-yard line, clipboard tucked under her arm, baton in hand. Her uniform jacket is open, sleeves rolled to the elbows. It's too early for formality. Around her, 100 students move like clockwork, setting flags, tuning instruments, marking drill spots with strips of colored tape. The field looks like a patchwork quilt of last-minute hope. Coach Ramirez blows her whistle again. Formations 27 through 33 full run. Let's make it clean. Lisa's stomach tightens. State Week, this is it. She raises her baton. Falcons ready, set. A ripple of instruments rise, poised like a breath about to be held. Go. The downbeat hits and sound explodes. Brass, woodwind, drumline. Every section locked in a delicate balance of motion and control. Adam's sticks blur in a rhythm that's almost mechanical in precision. Dante's saxophone cuts through the wall of sound with steady warmth. Autumn, dead center in the woodwinds, nails every run, her clarinet ringing out clean and confident. For a moment, it's perfect, the kind of run that makes the whole world fade away. But perfection, like breath, doesn't last long. A trumpet misses a cue. Someone forgets a turn. The brass line drifts 3 steps too far left, breaking the block formation. Lisa lowers her baton mid-count. Stop, 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 stop. The sound collapses. A murmur spreads through the band-tired sighs, frustration. Brass, you're drifting again, she says, voice steady but sharp. We need the alignment tighter by Thursday or we're going to lose formation points. Someone mutters, "We're trying, Major." Lisa ignores it. She's been here before the push, before a big competition, when everyone's tired and short-tempered and the pressure weighs heavier than the instruments on their shoulders. Ramirez steps forward, her whistle hanging loose around her neck. All right, take 5. Hydrate, stretch, and Lisa... Yes, ma'am. Let them breathe a little, you too. Lisa opens her mouth to argue, but stops when she sees Ramirez's expression, not stern, just knowing. She nods. The break drags like an exhausted heartbeat. Autumn sits cross-legged in the grass, chewing on the end of a granola bar. Adam flops onto his back beside her, sticks crossed on his chest like a tired knight's sword. Feels like we've been running this show since freshman year? He groans. Autumn laughs. That's because we kind of have. He turns his head, squinting at her. You're not nervous? Of course I am, she says, but I kind of like it. The nerves mean it matters. He grins faintly. You sound like Coach. Or Lisa, she adds, smirking. Yeah, but Lisa actually likes being stressed. From across the field, Lisa's voice calls for everyone to regroup. Autumn nudges him with her shoe. Up you go, philosopher. Ugh, I hate being awake. You love it, she says, and she's right. By Wednesday, exhaustion has settled over everyone like a second uniform. Morning rehearsal runs into afternoon. Afternoon runs into night. The sun sinks behind the bleachers, and still, they march. Dante sits on the edge of the sideline during a quick break, polishing his saxophone. The gold lacquer gleams in the dying light. Across the field, Lisa moves from section to section, clipboard in hand. adjusting, correcting, encouraging. He watches her for a moment, struck by how much of herself she pours into this every formation, every count, every tiny movement. It's not just about winning. It's about making something that feels right. When she passes by, he says quietly, "You ever get tired of being the one who holds it all together?" Lisa stops, surprised. "What do you mean?" "You know everyone looks at you like you've got all the answers." She hesitates, eyes drifting toward the field. "I don't," she says finally. "But they don't need to know that." Dante nods. Maybe they don't need answers, just someone who keeps the rhythm. Lisa's lips curve into a small smile. "You sound like Adam." "Then I'm probably right." She laughs softly and moves on. Thursday night, the final full rehearsal. Floodlights blaze across the field. The bleachers are empty, but the stands still echo faintly from the band's sound. The uniforms have been cleaned and pressed, instruments polished. This is it, the last run before they take the field at state. Coach Ramirez stands with arms crossed, a quiet shadow on the 50. "All right, Ridgeview," she says. "Let's make this one count." Lisa steps forward. Her baton feels heavier tonight, as if it knows what's coming. She meets Adam's eyes. He taps his sticks twice against his drum, a silent ready. Autumn nods, clarinet in place. Dante rolls his shoulders, breathing out through his nose. Lisa raises her arms. Set. The air goes still, then downbeat. The show begins like a storm. Every note, every step, every motion hits. The sound builds and breaks, rises and falls like a heartbeat. The formations shift in flawless synchronization arcs, diagonals, crescents. From above, it would look like a living shape, pulsing with rhythm. The duet section arrives Autumn and Dante's improvised moment from homecoming night, now officially part of the show. Autumn's clarinet floats over the field like wind. Dante's saxophone answers in deep, steady warmth. The rest of the band moves in concentric circles around them, each step deliberate and sure. It's not just music anymore, it's memory, connection. Every late night, every rain-soaked practice, every small moment of almost giving up, it's all in the sound. When they reach the closing note, Lisa lowers her baton slowly. The last chord hangs in the air like something sacred. Silence. Then applause not from an audience, but from within the band itself. Ramirez steps forward, eyes shining. "That," she says quietly, "was state ready." Nobody cheers, they just breathe a collective shaking exhale, the kind that comes after you've touched something bigger than yourself. Later, under the bleachers, Adam packs up his drum. His hands are raw, a blister forming under his thumb, but he can't stop smiling. Autumn sits beside him, her case open, reeds neatly lined up like tiny soldiers. "You think we'll win?" she asks. He shrugs. "Doesn't matter." "Liar," he chuckles. "Okay, maybe it matters a little, but even if we don't, that run tonight, I'll remember that longer than any trophy." She nods, quiet. "Me too." Across the field, Lisa and Dante walk side by side toward the equipment truck. "You think we're ready?" he asks. Lisa looks up at the empty bleachers, the silent field, the pale reflection of stars above them. "We're not perfect," she says, "but we're together, that's enough." The lights click off one by one, plunging the field into soft darkness. Tomorrow, they'll leave for state, the last bus ride, the last show. But for tonight, the world feels still, the air thick with that fragile golden peace that comes before something great begins. When Lisa finally gets home, it's nearly midnight. Her baton rests on her desk, beside the crumpled notebook where she keeps all the drill counts. She stares at it for a long time, her reflection faint in the silver tip. Then she whispers to the empty room, "Let's make it count." And she smiles, not anxious, not afraid, just ready. Chapter 13, State Championships. The charter buses roll into the Coliseum parking lot before sunrise, engines humming low like the steady heartbeat of an army on the march. Frost glitters on the grass. A pale blue dawn stretches over the horizon as if the sky itself is holding its breath. Lisa watches the world slide past her window, the rows of headlights, the ghostly fog, the faint reflection of her own face looking sharper than she feels. Her uniform jacket sits folded neatly on her lap, gloves tucked into the pocket. plume still sealed in its plastic sleeve. The others on the bus are half asleep or pretending not to be nervous. Not Lisa, she's been awake all night. The state championships, the end of everything they've worked for, the reason every blister, every tear, every shouted, again, mattered. Y'all better not cry in the field, Adam says from across the aisle, breaking the silence. He's grinning, but his eyes are bloodshot. You mess up a snare hit 'cause you're crying, I'll kill you myself. Like you won't, Autumn mutters from her seat, clutching her clarinet case to her chest. Dante, sitting beside her, gives a faint smile. Maybe we'll all cry together. That's what bands do, right? Lisa can't help it, she laughs, a short, shaky sound that draws a few glances from the front of the bus. Adam leans back. See, that's leadership, laughing at your troops before we die. Shut up, Adam, Lisa says, but the tension breaks just a little. The Coliseum smells like metal and rain. Rows of high school bands stretch across the lot, plumes, jackets, shining brass catching the morning light. Someone's bass drum echoes in the distance. Stay together, Lisa calls as they unload. Her voice slices through the chill air. Pit unloads first. Guard to warm-up area. B, winds and percussion with me. Autumn adjusts her beret for the 5th time. Her fingers shake as she assembles her clarinet. She knows her solo by heart, but every breath feels too shallow. Dante steps up beside her, trumpet balanced casually in one hand. Hey, he says softly, you'll do fine. I better, she whispers. It's state. You've been doing fine since day one. Autumn almost smiles, but the whistle blows time to move. Warm-up field. The cold is biting now, steam rising from the brass instruments like smoke from a battlefield. Lisa paces in front of them, metronome ticking on her phone. Focus, she says. Every beat counts, every set counts. You've done this 100 times, but this is the one that matters. Her voice trembles once, but she pushes through. Behind her, Adam starts the snare cadence, a crisp, rolling pattern that cuts through the chatter of nearby bands. It's clean, alive. He's sweating already, knuckles pale from the tension, but he doesn't miss a beat. Autumn counts off her scales quietly. Dante's trumpet cuts sharp and clear through the cold air, each note steady as if he's exhaling courage itself. Lisa raises her baton and the band snaps to attention. Eyes up, she says. One last time. They march to the gate. The roar of the stadium swells, not words, not even music, just a vast hum of thousands waiting. The judges' table gleams under the lights. Band 7A, you may take the field. Lisa steps onto the turf. For a heartbeat, the sound dies away. Only the faint buzz of the lights remains. She raises her baton. Drum majors, is your band ready? She nods. And then, the show begins. The opening hit blooms like sunrise. Brass, woodwinds, percussion, the entire ensemble breathing as one. The sound fills the Coliseum, waves of rhythm and melody rolling out into the stands. Adam's snare line drives the heartbeat, relentless and tight. His sticks blur. He doesn't think, doesn't feel, just locks into the groove. Every hit echoes his pulse, his fear, his pride. Autumn counts 8 measures in, steps forward for her solo. Her heart slams in her chest. The crowd blurs into a haze of color and light. She takes a breath, deep, steady, and plays. Her clarinet sings, a single trembling note that grows into something pure and alive, echoing through the stadium. For a moment, she's weightless. The sound is hers alone, suspended above the world. Then the band swells behind her, catching her melody, weaving it into the storm. Lisa's arms slice through the air, conducting like she's part of the music, not separate from it. Every gesture burns, every cue lands. Her mind is blank, body moving on instinct. The final movement crashes forward, percussion roaring, brass bright as fire, woodwinds threading light through chaos. Dante's trumpet rises above it all, ringing out like a beacon. The final chord hits, a sudden silence. Then the crowd erupts. Lisa lowers her arms slowly, chest heaving. Around her, the band holds formation, no one moving, not yet. The echo of their music still hangs in the air, a ghost refusing to leave. Only when the drumline snaps to parade rest does she exhale. They did it. Back behind the stands, the band collapses into laughter and tears. Adam drops to the ground, snare still strapped to him. I think I broke my wrists, he gasps, laughing. Autumn sets her clarinet down carefully and covers her face. Her shoulders shake, but she's smiling. Dante sits beside her. You killed it out there? You too, she says softly. That solo? Yours was better. Lisa stands a few feet away, arms folded, watching her band fall apart in the best possible way. They're crying, hugging, screaming into the cold air. For the first time in months, she lets herself just watch. Then someone shouts, "Results in 10!" The band gathers again, still trembling. The stadium lights dim slightly as the announcer's voice echoes across the field. In third place, Brookhaven High School. Applause. Cheers. In second place, Ridgefield South. Lisa's heart stutters. And in first place, with a score of 93.8, East Wren Marching Band. For a moment, no one moves. Then the world explodes. Autumn screams first. Adam tackles Dante in a hug. Lisa's baton clatters to the ground as the entire band surges around her, chanting, shouting, crying. We did it, we did it. Lisa can't speak. She's laughing and sobbing all at once. Someone lifts her onto their shoulders, the world spinning in gold and white light. She sees the trophy gleaming under the floodlights, and it doesn't even matter what it's made of. It's proof of every drop of sweat, every night they thought they'd break. Adam looks up at her from below. Told you we'd make you cry on the field. Lisa's tears are streaming freely now. Shut up, Adam. But she's smiling, really smiling for the first time in a long while. Later, the buses are loaded again. The stadium fades into the distance. The city lights flicker on the windows like tiny stars. Autumn leans her head against the glass, Dante asleep beside her, trumpet still in his lap. Adam's headphones are on, drumsticks tapping lightly against his knees. Lisa sits alone in the front, watching her reflection in the dark glass. She reaches for her phone, opens the band group chat, and types. Proud of you all, every single one of you. Rest well, you earned it. Then she puts it away, closes her eyes, and lets herself drift for the first time all season. Outside, the frost has melted. The dawn is gone. The road stretches ahead, long and quiet, leading them home not the same as before, but stronger. The season's over. But the music somehow isn't.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay safe.